Thanks a lot, Mark, and congratulations to you and your team on putting together another great conference. I'm privileged today to get to introduce Tony Geheran. He's the Executive Vice President and Chief Customer Officer at Telus. So, a lot of people might wonder, why is a nuclear guy introducing a guy from Telus? And at the end of the day, I think the key thing that we both have in common is that what Telus is doing, what Bruce Power is doing, is delivering essential services through infrastructure that's focused on reliability and affordability. So those of you not familiar with Bruce Power, we're a P3 project. We're one of Canada's largest infrastructure projects. We're a nuclear facility that operates on the shores of Lake Huron, and we provide 30% of Ontario's electricity at 30% below the average cost to produce residential power. What we're doing right now is refurbishing 6 of our units at Bruce Power, and we're going to secure emissions-free electricity for the next 5 decades. And that, along with some of the other work we're doing, including producing medical isotopes at power reactors, is something that we're able to do because of commitments by government and policymakers, as well as strong leadership from the business community that enables this kind of infrastructure to be built. And whether it's new pipeline projects, nuclear energy, isotopes, or broadband internet, what we count on in Ontario and in Canada is strong leadership and strong, stable policy support. And so that's why we're so lucky to have Tony here with us today, providing that kind of leadership with his organization. So I'd like you to join me in welcoming Tony to the stage.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Let me start by just thanking the organizers of this conference for bringing us all together in the spirit of partnership and collaboration to build much-needed infrastructure and projects for the benefit of all Canadians. At Telus, we're in the business of connecting Canadians to the people, information, and resources that improve our lives, or improve their lives, and create positive social and economic outcomes. Investment in broadband infrastructure is critical in bridging the geographic and digital divides, enabling businesses to compete in the global digital economy, attracting top talent to our country and our communities, connecting healthcare facilities to the digital healthcare ecosystem, and providing educational facilities with access to online resources and tools that provide youth with exponentially more opportunities. Not to mention the positive environmental footprint and reduced carbon emissions, bridging time and distance with smart technologies. So since 2000, Telus has invested $175 billion in infrastructure and operations, and will additionally invest $40 billion over the next 3 years for a total of $215 billion. Our investments to date have ensured that over 99% of Canadians can enjoy world-leading speed, coverage, and quality from our Telus 4G LTE wireless network, and they can expect more of the same for our 5G networks that we're about to be rolling out. Moreover, 2 million and growing Canadian households now have access to our high-speed wireline broadband with Telus Pure Fibre, and that is really transforming the communities where we've made these investments. But we still have much work to do. Many of these critical infrastructure projects are possible only through strong collaboration and partnership between both private and public sectors. With that in mind, I'd like to touch on 3 main topics today. First, I want to talk about Canada's leading place in the world when it comes to communications and infrastructure and connectivity. Second, I'll share some success stories and learnings from the recent projects and partnerships that Telus has been involved with, including work we've been doing with Indigenous communities. Lastly, and most importantly, I want to touch on some key opportunities as we move forward together. So I want to take a moment to highlight a few things that I think we're doing well. So our 60,000 team members globally and the 33,000 team members who proudly call Canada home, work tirelessly to connect Canadians to information and people that matters most to them. Canada, as you know, is a vast country with relatively small and dispersed population, and I'm sure we can all agree that keeping citizens connected takes a lot of investment, innovation, determination, and of course, strong partnership, something that Canada has always been known for. The good news is our communications infrastructure is truly world-leading. In wireless space, Telus has earned global third-party recognition in network excellence from OpenSignal, JD Power, PCMag, Ookla, and Tutela. These reports and others substantiate that the wireless networks in Canada far outpace our US neighbours in terms of speed and reliability. Despite geographic challenges, 99% of all Canadians are covered by 4G LTE networks, including 95% of rural communities. And a recent OpenSignal report found that if rural Canada was its own country, it would rank 12th in the world in respect to download speeds, with rural Canadians on average seeing faster 4G download speeds than users in Sweden, New Zealand, France, and 73 other countries, including the US. In fact, wireless speeds available in rural Canada exceed those of any region in the entire US. According to the OECD Digital Economy Outlook, Canada enjoys the highest per capita investment in network technology in the G7, and Telus continues to lead by example, prioritizing its investments to connect both rural and urban Canadians. Notably, in the last 4 years, we have built out 6,300 wireless sites, connecting 1.5 million rural Canadians to new and improved coverage. In that same period, with our partners in Montreal and Ottawa, we launched free Wi-Fi at metro and LRT stations. Furthermore, we now have connected 127 towns and cities, 76% of which are rural, to our Telus Pure Fibre network. Canadians are also leaders in efficient deployment of capital. For example, Telus and Bell have spent around $12 billion to bring advanced fibre optic infrastructure to over 7 million homes and businesses and institutions across Canada. Compare this to the $50 billion spent by Australia's National Broadband Network, or NBN project, famously plagued by significant issues, inefficiencies, political meddling. To date, 10.3 million Australian homes and businesses are able to connect to the NBN access network, with speeds guaranteed of 25 megabits and below. So $50 billion for 10.3 million homes. We've got 7 million completed already for about $12 billion, a significant investment advantage for Canada, not at Canadian taxpayers' expense, unlike the Australian example. In 2013, before the NBN project, the Speed Test Global Index ranked Australia 30th in the world of average internet speeds. In spite of this massive $50 billion investment, recent stand-ins ranked Australia 64th on a global basis. Canada is ranked 11th. It's equally important to note that the Economist's 2019 Exclusive Internet Index, which compares 100 countries in terms of availability, affordability, relevance, and readiness for internet access, rated Canada at 6th in the world. Moreover, amongst the entire 100-country study, which accounts for 94% of the world's population, Canada is ranked number 1 for internet affordability. By way of example, Telus' new endless data plans are less expensive than comparable US data plans, despite the fact that Canada has a larger, more challenging geography, higher taxes and operating costs, foreign exchange risks, and significant diseconomies of scale. Without question, Canadians enjoy world-leading customer service and amazing connectivity that is on its internationally celebrated networks, and that is an achievement that makes us incredibly proud. So before I talk about the opportunity, I think it's important to expand on the power of this technology to drive health and social outcomes across our country. Alongside our partners, we are working towards a future where healthcare will be personal, precise, and accessible to all Canadians. Our investment in fast, secure, and expansive networks enables us to offer greater connection speeds to clinics, healthcare centres, pharmacies, and patients at home, enabling delivery of digital and virtual healthcare. This is especially beneficial to residents of rural and remote communities, helping them to stay at home longer and limiting the cost and time associated with health-related travel. Additionally, through apps like Babylon by Telus Health, we are empowering Canadians with immediate medical knowledge and support at home, in their workplace, or on the move, enabling virtual online consultations with a doctor within 30 minutes. Despite the rapid growth of this service, the doctor and app ratings are 4.9 out of 5. And this is a virtual app that you can download on your phone. You can schedule an appointment with a specialist, and they will call you back and commit to the appointment that you've scheduled, and you have a video consult over your cell phone device or your tablet or your computer. And it's launched in BC, and we're looking to roll it out as fast as we can across the country, and it is really, really taking off. There are over 600,000 Canadians in British Columbia that don't have access to a general practitioner, and this app lets them speak with a professional doctor qualified in British Columbia immediately, and it's really, really starting to resonate with the youth and those people that had challenges in the past. It's a huge step forward in the evolution of Canada's healthcare system, increasing access to services across a vast geography while helping address the rising cost of care. Additionally, we believe in using our core business to serve a greater social purpose that benefits all of our stakeholders, from shareholders and customers to our most vulnerable citizens. Through our Telus Connecting for Good initiatives, we are democratizing access to technologies and infrastructure that underpin the success of so many Canadians at risk of being left behind in our increasingly digital society. This includes offering 130,000 low-income Canadian families access to low-cost, subsidized, high-speed internet and a computer with the Telus Internet for Good program, enabling 20,000 youth at risk who have aged out of Canada's foster care system to gain their independence while staying connected with their fully subsidized cell phone and data plan through the Telus Mobility for Good, empowering 33,000 people with severe physical limitations to live more connected, independent lives through the Telus Assistive Tech for Good, and supporting 15,000 Canadians living on our streets with access to mobile healthcare through the Telus Health for Good program. Additionally, we are launching a $500,000 social innovation fund for Indigenous communities in Canada. A $250,000 pilot will launch in BC next year, followed by another $250,000 pilot in Alberta in 2021. The fund's focus will be to support socially innovative local projects that bring groups together to help identify, create, and implement community-based solutions to help all Canadians, especially youth, succeed in our interconnected world. There are still communities across Canada, many of them rural and remote, that require connectivity so they can access the tools and resources so necessary to fuel innovation, to participate fully in our digital economy, and access critical health services. For more than a decade, Telus has been collaborating with Indigenous governments and organisations, as well as federal and provincial governments, to bring high-speed internet connectivity to Indigenous communities. These projects are helping break down barriers and create positive social outcomes as we work toward broader reconciliation as a country. To date, we have invested more than $25 million to bring high-speed connectivity to more than 10,000 homes and businesses and schools in 46 Indigenous communities in British Columbia, including 12 in partnership with the All Nations Trust Company, ANCO, and their Pathways to Technology project. As well as Telus Pure Fibre, Telus Pure Fibre is now in 4 Indigenous communities in eastern Quebec, including Passami, Ouachat, Maliatam, and Letiskouji. We are in the early stages of engaging Indigenous communities in Alberta about the Pure Fibre connectivity. One of our recent collaborations involved investments not only in Pathways to Technology, but from the Interior Health Authority and Telus to connect 9 Indigenous communities in the remote Cariboo-Chilcotin region of BC to Telus Pure Fibre. Individually, bringing high-speed connectivity to these communities was not economically feasible, but through innovative partnership model, We were able to assess these communities together as a single project, which allowed the economies to work. This infrastructure is ushering in new digital era for the region, providing critical access to healthcare, including better online services from Interior Health and the First Nations Health Authority. Education, economic development, and emergency response services for upwards of 2,000 people are now supported. Importantly, this connectivity bridges time and distance by allowing young people to live and work in their communities without compromising their opportunities. Chief Sherry Sellers of the Hatsui First Nation shared with our team that this transformation for our community was really impactful because the new connectivity will bring her family members home. She actually quoted her nephew who said, "Auntie, you're getting fibre, I can move back to the community." Additionally, when we talked to the locals about their requirements, they were particularly happy to support their elders through Telus' personal medical alert service, Living Well Companion. It's a two-way voice service that gives users 24/7 access to trained operators who can contact loved ones or alert emergency personnel to dispatch help in the event of a fall or an accident. It will help aging residents stay safe and maintain their independence for longer. Last week, you may have seen our joint announcement with the Government of Quebec and the federal government to invest more than $23 million to bring high-speed internet to nearly 5,000 citizens across 14 communities in Quebec's lower North Shore, located about 2,000 kilometres east of Montreal. For those unfamiliar with the lower North Shore, it's a remote and isolated region with an amazing history, and local culture is expressed in language, craft, and daily life. Coasters have a rich tradition and enjoy kitchen parties, singing and dancing and country music. Working closely with the public sector, we embarked on this historic infrastructure project that will build one of the longest wireless backbones in the world, stretching along more than 400 kilometres of coastline and taking the advantage of LTE advanced technology to those communities. This challenging terrain means that equipment was brought in by boat and helicopter, and our teams travelled by all-terrain vehicles in order to build and activate the remote sites. Lower North Shore residents will, for the first time, have access to reliable, high-speed internet and wireless service. To give just one example of how this will improve the quality of life for locals, Randy Jones, Mayor of Gros-Macoutine, told us that this is life-changing for healthcare and for students. Students and teachers will use digital boards and interactive learning, and nurses won't have to limit themselves to phone communication to reach out to doctors who are hundreds of kilometres away. We will continue filing applications in collaboration with Government of Quebec to bring high-speed connectivity to other rural and underserved communities. Finally, I want to share an exciting project we recently announced in partnership with the town of Drayton Valley. And Drayton Valley was one of our first all-pure fibre communities in Alberta. And that community, at the time we started embarking on the investment, was riding high on the back of the oil boom and has since seen a challenge to its economic viability as the downturn in the Alberta economy has started to have impact. Nonetheless, the fibre infrastructure they have now is allowing them to embark on other entrepreneurial initiatives and allowing them to find other ways that they can make their community brighter and safer. Over the next 5 years, Telus will invest over $16 billion in Alberta to connect more homes and businesses to Telus Pure Fibre, improve access to healthcare technology, support the Internet of Things and capabilities around agricultural technology, and prepare the province for the introduction of 5G. Drayton Valley has been a valued partner of Telus, as I just indicated, and is as an important and proud part of this journey to drive growth and create opportunities. It is looking to leverage the technology to build a smarter and safer city. Quite often, their RCMP detachment is called away out of town, and other people use that as an opportunity to come into town and do things that aren't very pleasant. They don't have the coverage, there aren't the funds to create more RCMP officers to get a better coverage. They're looking to use smart technology to monitor the highways in and out of town, to link communities of interest, neighbourhood watches, so they can have a smarter and safer community for their citizens. And they see this technology as groundbreaking in leveraging the technologies that they want to deploy in their city. So we're going to create a living lab that will be a template for other small communities that have similar challenges. And this, we believe, will drive forward and grow in terms of capability as the 5G ecosystem evolves for generations to come. So this partnership is a win-win scenario that positions Drayton Valley as a globally competitive tech haven in its region, a desirable place to live and start a business, while providing Telus with the ability to test and learn about the new technologies and how best they can be applied. Finally, I want to touch on some key opportunities that I believe we need to address with the goal of fostering strong and meaningful collaborative partnerships for the benefit of all Canadians. At Telus, our approach to partnership is based on a series of strategic criteria and is always grounded in our commitment to improving social and economic outcomes for Canadians. We evaluate each project individually to ensure we can achieve a viable long-term result that will work for end users and will provide a solid business case for Telus. Maximizing benefits for all parties involved has been critical to our success, and we believe an outcome where neither side gets what it wants is worse than not pursuing the project in the first place. In short, we need to thoughtfully build win-win opportunities, and there are a few ways we're successfully doing this today. We are taking opportunities to maximize our efficiency by extending our fixed broadband footprint to additional communities when builds are happening nearby. And if we can get communities of interest, be they provincial, federal, or municipal, to cooperate and collaborate, quite often we can make these otherwise uneconomical builds justifiable, and they come forward to fruition. We're also leveraging our wireless broadband technology, currently 4G and soon 5G, to provide HSIA or high-speed internet-like coverage in areas where delivering wireline services are uneconomical or unfeasible due to geographic constraints. And we've seen a lot of success in working with organizations such as ANTCO, as well as smaller communities and stakeholders to create these custom footprints, which offer flexibility and innovation in terms of funding and build timelines. At the end of the day, we're trying to do the right thing with these projects and operate according to the principles of social capitalism that define our overall approach to business. We want to partner with governments to deliver on these critical infrastructure projects to benefit Canadians, and we need to be realistic and appreciative of each other's requirements and objectives. If either side is too focused on their own outcome, there will never be a successful project. As I mentioned, we've seen lots of success with innovative partnership models, and I want to let you know that Telus is open for business. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me or anyone on our team. I'd love to talk to you more about some of the exciting things we've been doing and explore future partnership opportunities. Having spent 5 years building our pure fibre footprint and over $4.5 billion invested, I can tell you we learned a lot of things along the way. So we have a really good case study of how to do things and what not to do, how to make investments work and partnerships work, and when they don't. So we'd be more than happy to share those in discussion. I also want to thank you again for joining us today for this important discussion on how we can work together to connect Canadians for a friendly future. Thank you.
So we have the opportunity now for a couple of questions that may have come from the audience, Tony. You can see they're already coming up on the monitor. So maybe I can start with the first one in terms of what role do you believe government should play in ensuring healthy telecoms competition in Canada?
My opinion. I think we've already got pretty healthy competition in Canada, and those examples I cited around the magnitude of investment already made, none of which was at taxpayers' expense, has given a significant step in the right direction on driving ubiquitous broadband infrastructure for all. It's not there yet, but it's well down the path, and it's been done at what I would say were good economic terms for the country. Those investments were made because the investors felt that they could make an economic return. So competition, I think, is present already. I think if you create false competition or you try to overly influence the structure and the nature, I think what you're going to find is investments will dry up. I think people will sit back because they won't be able to get the justification or the support for their investments. And I don't think that's a healthy thing. I think if you look across the globe. There are a few places that have the extent of broadband coverage that we already do, at the price points we already do. And if you think about the cost substitution that this technology is deploying, whenever you hear negative connotations about the state of Canada or its communications industry, it invariably says we're being charged too much. Well, if you go and look at the real rate of cost for the capabilities that have now been delivered, I think it's pretty good value, but that's my opinion. I think the government needs to make sure that there is fair competition, but I don't think it needs to be onerous in that regard.
Thank you. So another question, I'm not sure you were here this morning when Natan Obed, who's Canada's national Inuit leader, was speaking about the challenges that Inuit communities are facing across the country. And he particularly put a focus on the need for broadband connectivity and how challenging it's been in Nunavut and other parts of the north. You mentioned Telus's engagement with Indigenous communities. Can you talk a little bit about how you might be able to be responsive to the kinds of concerns that Natan was raising this morning?
Yeah, well, we have a significant rural Indigenous population in British Columbia, and a significant portion of that is still not connected to broadband at the speeds or the capabilities that we would like. And some of those are really in rural and remote areas. So I think the onus is on us and the Indigenous communities and government, local and provincial, federal, to really look to see how we can find ways to bridge what are otherwise uneconomic constraints on any individual group or party. And I think when you do come together, good things can happen, but you really need to make sure that the economics of the project are well understood, that there are reasonable and firm timelines that will be upheld so that people can have some reliability about what will be built, but also that the commercial objectives and the social objectives align. Clearly, an entity like Telus is going to want to have paying customers for some of the services, but equally, we can only offer services that people can afford to pay for. So we need to make sure that we're in touch with that. But we would more than happily invest in a partnership model to drive further connectivity to those communities. There are precious few Canadians as it is, and we can't afford to leave any behind when we want to have strong, vibrant industry and strong, vibrant businesses. So we would like to see our customer base grow, and we would like to find ways to economically deliver these great networks to those communities that have yet to get them.
Okay, thank you. We've had another question come in asking, what is the value of laying fiber in conjunction with conventional infrastructure projects like highways?
Huge value if you can get the mutual timing right. So if one of the challenges we've had as we've rolled out our Pure Fibre program is you have to upgrade your backhaul and your transport. Quite often that's already in situ on a route. You need to work to see, and we try to make sure that if there are highway projects, if we can do that at the same time, that's great. We've done some projects with either hydro or transport to try and find opportunities, but quite often it's a factor of either project isn't lining up and neither party can kind of adjust their schedules. So the more forward-looking everyone is, the more opportunity there is to make these things co-align. And that really is, I think, the essence of making the best value economic investments for everybody is really future planning and making sure that people have a platform of surety of investment so they know if they're going to commit to long-term projects, those investment theses are going to stand. Then you can really establish, I think, forward-looking partnership models, and you can start to make some of these things generate investment benefit for everybody.
Okay. And maybe with time for one last question. As you know, on Wednesday, the Prime Minister will be announcing his new cabinet. I would think the minister of maybe most interest to you might be the new Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development. Could you comment a little bit around what you'll be looking for from the government in terms of what you need to continue to advance a connectivity agenda across the country?
I think we'd like them to have some accurate data on which they assess the state of the nation with respect to the telecom infrastructure. I think the more accurate they are, the more reflective they'll be on where the real challenge is and what the opportunities are and how best we poll our collective resources together to get good outcomes for our constituents and citizens. If they carry on a populist agenda, which is saying things should be cheaper and more competition, then I think they're going to challenge the investment thesis that we're all looking to strive to generate and create. So I think they should be informed. I gave you some facts and stats that weren't produced by Telus, and I think they suggest that things aren't as bad as people make out, and quite often we're in a pretty good position. That doesn't mean we can sit back and rest. It means we still have more to do, but we should be looking at focusing our energies on closing those gaps rather than trying to maybe address the competitive landscape in a way that the population and the viability models just will not stack up. They haven't anywhere else globally. I'm not sure why we would think it would be that different in Canada. So I think we have enough competitors. We've got strong telecom broadband, cable broadband infrastructure being deployed in most urban regions. And to an extent, as I indicated, there are targeted and specific small rural projects, but we need to be doing more of those. And we can only do that if we've got a stable policy foundation, if we've got a stable economic foundation, and I think that's where the government should focus so that we can get on with the business of creating the capabilities that they want Canadians to enjoy.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll know soon enough.
We will indeed.
Thank you very much for your presentation today. I'm also pleased to let you know that we'll be making a donation on your behalf to Habitat for Humanity for making this presentation today. Thank you so very much, Tony. Good
Thank you for your time.